YouTubers today, Serious and Silliness has a rising 212 bodybuilding superstar. Pretty soon you'll his name. Yeah, pretty soon. You heard it here first. Pretty soon his name is going to be a household name. And that is Derik Oslan. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. So as we were talking right before I started recording, I first found out who you were when I was watching the Indie Pro, and then I did a wrap-up show with Jason Owens and Rita West on the New York Pro, and we went over the 212, and we're going over, and basically all three of us had the same opinion of you, that you had great symmetry, great balance, great shape, basically just need a little bit more muscle to compete with those guys, and that's really it. But as far as you got all the tools, that goes without saying, which is why I'm saying you are a rising star. And in a couple of years, people will know really who you are as far as a household name, because you have all the tools. Nothing's out of place. You're very balanced. And I mean, I'm just a podcaster, right? And a fan. But for my take, when a bodybuilder has all that, putting on the size is like the easiest part, as opposed to trying to catch up other body parts,
Right. Right. Yeah. I agree with that.
So why don't you give us a little background? How'd you turn pro, where you're from, your amateur career?
Okay, sweet. Well, first of all, that was quite the intro you gave me. So
I give everybody respect that comes on my show. And the truth of the matter is, I actually said this to almost everybody. One good thing about having your own podcast is that you get to interview people that you admire, not people you have to interview.
I see. Well, thank you.
You got it, man.
Thank you. Problem. I appreciate that compliment.
Of course.
Okay. So, where do I start? Shit.
Well, where you from in your amateur career?
Yeah. Okay. So, I am originally from Lowell, Massachusetts, born and raised, and I currently live in Tampa, Florida. I started bodybuilding in 2014 in terms of competitive bodybuilding. I started weight training when I was 13 years old. So I've told the story before, a bunch of times. It's on my Instagram, on different podcasts I've been on. So, but basically the short version of it is I was the skinny nerdy kid in school that got picked on and bullied and beat up. And I kind of had enough of it. And my dad bought me a gym membership when I was 13. So I was in 2001. And I saw that as my opportunity to take control of my life. That was, and just be able to change the way people looked at me, judged me, viewed me, and treated me, both emotionally and physically. That's where everything started. And I've been weight training 5 days a week, every single week since I was 13 years old. I think the only breaks, like long-term breaks, that I've taken were in college for finals week. Or like that April and May leading into finals, like I didn't really go to the gym that much because I was locked in the library for hours. Other than that, I've been weight training every single week, 5 days a week since I was 13 years old. Fast forward to 2014 was my very first show, which was the Powerhouse Classic in New Haven, Connecticut. So I was living in Connecticut at the time. My mom lives in Connecticut. My dad lives in Massachusetts, just to give you guys, give you a little bit more background and reference. But anyway,
which is not far from each other, right?
No, 2 hours, if that. But not that bad. No, my parents are not together, for anyone that is paying attention.
Obviously.
But, since they live in two different places. But I was blessed enough to be able to have both parents in my life, and they were able to co-parent me very successfely. And even though definitely, and even though they couldn't coexist in a relationship, I never felt lacking in any way when it comes to how they raised me. So, and it was just Father's Day, so I gotta show some love, and
I did see that post for you and your dad. I did see that post. Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah, I actually hadn't seen him since I moved down here in 2018. He just I have my stuff going on, he has his stuff going on, and we just never were able to kind of link up. So that was the first time I saw him in 3 years, even though we talk like at least a couple times a week. So, but anyway, so all that aside, so fast forward to 2014, Powerhouse Classic was my very first show ever in April of 2014. I placed dead last in the show, but I look back at the pictures and I go, okay, yeah, I placed last. I can see where everyone was better than me, but I didn't look. To me, I didn't look out of place. I was brand new to the sport. I didn't really know for sure what I was looking at, but I knew that I didn't look like a schmuck. So I was like, okay.
That's a testament to your character. The fact that you came in last in your first show, and the fact that you kept going because you believed in yourself. That's a huge testament in your character, because it obviously shows that your hard work paid off, because now you're a professional bodybuilder. And
yeah, but it wasn't just that I believed in myself. It was about finding myself, and the whole journey wasn't just about doing shows and getting better and winning and all of that stuff. I want to win, don't get me wrong. I enter competitions to do well and win, but I remember the reason why I said I started lifting in the first place when I was 13. I just wanted to be able to look in the mirror and love myself. That's that's what it was all about for me. And I wasn't there, but I realized that the two goals of doing well and winning in bodybuilding shows and building something that I was going to look in the mirror and have the self-love that I didn't have when I was younger, those two goals coincided with each other. They were on the same path. So the path to being a better bodybuilder also led to me acquiring the high self-esteem and self-worth and self-love that I was looking for. So that's what really spurred me to keep going.
I think that is I think that is a reason that most people don't admit, and I think it's more common than most bodybuilders admit. I think the majority of bodybuilders either say, well, I played football and I wrestled, so I fell in love with the weight room. But then I think there's a lot of, because I fall into that out of your category, where it was like, I grew up in Brooklyn, and of course I got bullied, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes. And it was the same thing. And then I had moved to Staten Island, and it was the same thing. And it was the same way. So my oldest brother bought me a weight set, and I'd be working out constantly and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And it was the same. I fell into it the same way. Only obviously you are genetically much better than I am.
It took me a while to figure it out. Don't get me wrong. I look back at those first pictures that I took in 2014, and I'm like, who would have thought? Like, me looking at myself now, I can kind of see where the pieces were, but even then I'd be like there's no way that this guy is going to end up being an Olympia level bodybuilder. I was looking at myself and not, and it wasn't me.
Everybody said that about Sean Clarita. And I mean, everybody said that about Sean Clarita, right? Even when he turned pro, he's got he's just too small. He's just too small. He's just
too short. Yeah.
Too short, too small. And he was just all of a sudden, like the last few years, I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, people have been like, oh shit, this kid's coming around. This kid's coming around. And then he shows at the Olympia last year, and it was lights out, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Like, even me watching, I placed 8th in the Olympia, so I didn't make the first call out. I was in 2nd. But even just watching the guys in the first call out as a fan, I was able to kind of take myself out of it for a moment and just appreciate what the level of completeness and just awe-generating physiques that those guys had. And I was in I was in competition mode. I was trying to move up and, place better, blah, blah, blah. But just for a moment, I was able to just remove that piece of it and just wow. And just have that wow moment. Yeah. And that felt really good.
I've heard a lot about bodybuilders say that the first time they do a pro show, they're like, oh my God, there's, Dexter, there's Phil, there's Sean Clarita, there's whoever, and it's like, whoa. And then after 1 or 2, you're like, all right, now it's time to start winning, You kind of get
of course.
Yeah. So when did you turn pro?
2016 nationals. And that was actually my first crack at it. So I did the shows in 2014. I think my best placing, I did get a 2nd place that year, but like there was a big distance between 1st and 2nd. And I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we go into off season. It was a pretty long off season. October, I guess not long in the case of some guys going off season for years, but like it was a 7-8 month off season. Go into the following year, 2015. I had 3 shows planned. All of them were national qualifiers, and I won the overall in the first. So I went from placing last in 3 out of the 5 shows that I did and getting a second and a fourth to the very first show the next year. I ended up winning an overall as a heavyweight. I weighed in at 201.
Really?
And the cutoff. Yeah, that was the East Coast Cup in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
I weighed in at 201. The lower cutoff was 198 and a half, and the top limit was 225. So I weighed in at 201, win the overall. Go down the light heavies for the second show is NPC Eastern USA's. That's a Bev Francis show.
Sure, I've been there plenty of times.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you live up there. So in Teaneck. So I placed second in that show. Nick Medici won the light heavies and the overall at that show, and he went on to turn pro that year. And then I did the New England Championships in Boston, got first there as a light heavy. So now I'm like, oh, I can actually do something with this. Like I'm consistently either winning or like in the mix. All right. Like, so now at this point, I'm starting to let myself believe. Right. Fast forward to 2016, I did the New England Championships again. I placed second as a heavyweight, dropped 5 pounds, get into light heavies, win the overall at the Eastern USA's again, and then went on to nationals to win my pro card as a light heavy.
If you win the overall in the tri-state, if you win the overall in the Easterns, the Atlantic States, or the Mets, you're ready for the national stage. You're ready for the national stage. I mean, it's just everybody in bodybuilding in the tri-state area knows that. And and everybody also knows that the New York shows, the Bev Francis shows, are the toughest ones in the tri-state area. Like
100%.
Yeah. So then in 2016, you do the nationals and you win your class, or you win the overall.
I did not win the overall. Sean Vasquez, who was the heavyweight winner, won the overall, but I won my class and I won the light heavies and got my pro card.
And then what was your first pro show?
New York Pro. I placed 10th. At that show. That was
significant difference this year.
Damn right. Damn right, man.
So I knew it. Like I knew you were a rising star. So because from 16th to 4th in a New York Pro lineup is pretty damn good. I
placed 10th.
Oh, you placed 10th. I'm sorry. I apologize. You placed 10th.
No, it's okay. 16th to 4th sounds a lot better. It sounds like a much better story.
Just let me ride
someone would have fact checked you.
You're right. The thing is, the vast majority, no, not even the vast majority, 99% of pro bodybuilders have to kind of go through the ranks like yourself, right?
Yeah.
Seriously, you go down from Ronnie Coleman to Kai Green to Branch Warren, you go down the list and they kind of have to go through the ranks like yourself. There's not too many guys like a Nick Walker or a Phil Heath that just skyrocket to the top in no time. Though and people who don't know about hardcore bodybuilding, there may be a general body, but they get hung up on that. You'll never be. But the truth of the matter is, Kai Green took forever to get to. Ronnie Coleman took forever to get to where he was. These were not guys like a Sean Ray or Kevin LeBron and then bang right to the top. It was the majority of guys go through the ranks that you have. And from my experience, for some reason, I don't know why, but I feel like when you put the time and effort in, I don't know, the muscle maturity appears better. I don't know how it is. Maybe it's time and the time. Like when you look at a Kai Green at his peak or a Branch Warren at his peak or Ronnie Coleman at his peak, and they put that time in, like that grainy, hard muscle is just, I don't know. It's like, the younger guys that shoot to the top don't have that right away,
No, and in some cases, depending on their work ethic, they may rise quickly, but then they plateau very quickly.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the next thing that I wanted to say in response to what you were just saying is I don't think it's just the time that passes that causes the muscle maturity. I think it's the leveling up of the training that happens over that time.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking about myself. The way that I train now, I thought when I won my pro card, I thought I trained hard. Yeah. And I did. Don't get me wrong, I did. But the way that I train now would put pro card winning me, like I would make him look like shit. I would run circles around him.
It's the God's honest truth. Listen, I think I work out hard when I go to the gym, but I've never worked out with somebody in your caliber. As you know, I never worked out with somebody like you or somebody in the pro caliber, and I'm sure I would get destroyed because there's levels to everything, you know, and it just happens to be true. And so this year, let's fast forward to this year. You had a pretty good year. You had a really good year. I don't think you did as well as you wanted to in the Indie Pro. No, but you made up for it. You made it up for it in the New York Pro. New York Pro, you had a really good look, and that was the first time. Again, I mean, I'm nobody to talk about. I'm just a podcaster and a bodybuilding fan, but that's when you caught my eye. And the truth was, the guys, the only person, not even like out of the, in the New York Pro, Nathan Epler came in first, John Jewett, Noel Adame, and then you came in fourth. My personal opinion is your shape and symmetry were better than all of theirs. It was just muscle maturity, size, and like grainy. It was like, maybe they were a little harder than you. But
dry.
But Nathan Epler, as great as he is, he kind of his arms are a little on the smaller side, right? Mm-hmm. Which he'll probably correct. John Jewett was probably the best package out of the bunch. And Noel is massive human being, but his legs kind of, throw him off balance. They're so big.
Unbalanced.
But within your case, it's just you're so symmetrically sound that's why I say that I think somebody like you, and I also, when I interviewed Samson Dowda, I had the same opinion because it's the same kind of thing. He's so symmetrically sound and so balanced that it's just time. That's all it is, just time. Mm-hmm. Before you're going to be in the top 5, top 10 in the world. It's just time.
Well, first of all, I am actually top 10 in the world.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Technically, we'll see what happens when this Olympia comes around.
You're right about that. I apologize.
I'm doing my damnedest to qualify.
Right about that.
I'm just being an ass.
I don't know.
But what I did wanted to add to that was I trained with Joe Bennett, hypertrophy coach.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, and he was commenting on the same thing. And it's funny because what he said to me was, your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness in terms of your placings. And he was talking about my balance. He was like, you're so balanced that sometimes you can get overshadowed by guys who have really freaky body parts.
That's right.
Because
true.
Very true. When Noel comes out and, he hits his side chest and that freaking hamstring.
You're like, sweet Jesus. Holy. I know.
Whereas I don't have, I have my thumb in front of the camera.
Don't worry about it, bro.
I don't have that thing, that one freaky body part that overshadows everything, that makes you go, holy shit. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think one of the old school guys that immediately comes to mind is like Chris Cormier.
Yes. Or perfect example.
I think Chris is the perfect example. I would even say Dexter too. Because he was so symmetrically balanced, but his thing was his ab and thigh. Like his ab and thigh would blow everybody away. And I think because he always had the 8-pack, that was like the eye draw.
You're talking about the arguably one of the greatest bodybuilders that ever walked the face of the earth.
Yes. Yes.
But Chris Cormier is the perfect example where he was so balanced that he never had that wow factor. Like he came out and boom, like Ronnie used to come out and he used to look at his back and he's go, oh my God, Dorian was the same way. You look at it, holy shit. But you're right. Yeah. It was like those guys like a Kevin Levrone or Chris Cormier, they was like so symmetrically sound that they didn't have that pop, that wow factor. Even like a Jay Cutler would come out and it would be massive, these massive shoulders. You know,
I think Kevin Levrone had
you're
a
probably
little
right.
bit of wow.
That was a bad example.
Well, because I think of his side chest, right? You think of iconic shots, right?
Now
when
I'm
he
thinking
comes
about,
out, he hits that side chest.
Yeah, side chest with his shoulders and his hand. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
So, but he had, you know, great balance as well. So figuring out how to overcome that, basically what it comes down to is I agree with you in terms of more tissue. You know, you can't that how do I want to put this? Having additional tissue would also help with the quote unquote conditioning or dryness, graininess type of look, because you can't add that graininess to tissue that isn't there. Right. So, you know, I understand where my holes are, and I'm trying. That's what I've been doing over the past month or so, is trying to address those.
But your holes are, you know, like your
weaknesses.
holes are not that. You know, you're not a. Who was the guy that was talking all the smack, and then he came out on stage, and you're like, "Where's his legs?" You know?
Blessing.
Yeah, you're not a Blessing where it's like, "Wow, you're gonna need a lot of work on." Like you, somebody like you could seriously, like as you did from Indy to New York, you work on conditioning and whatnot. And you could move up a couple of places because your symmetry is so well, and your balance is so well. If you don't mind me asking, how tall are you, and how much do you weigh when you're on stage?
So 5'6" on a good day. Probably more like 5'5.5".
Okay.
And then so I weighed in at like 209 at the Indy, and then I dropped down to 204. Now,
okay.
For New York. Now, let me preface all of that by saying that last year in 2020, the lowest I weighed was 210.
Okay.
At weigh-ins. I would probably end up dropping like another pound after weigh-ins at, you know, when we're finished drying out, and then be on stage at like, you know, 211, 212. So one of the biggest things was the way I trained last year versus how I trained going into the shows this year. I don't want to go into the whole spiel, but I will say that the style that I usually follow. Do you follow Jordan Peters?
Sure.
Okay. So he follows like, you know, 2 working sets. Warm-up sets are never higher than 5 reps. You'll typically do like a top set of like 6 to 8 reps, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, and then you do a back off set, lower the weight, go for a higher rep range, blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty much how I trained, and in a very progressive fashion, all season last year. And then I reached a point where like my strength gains went through the roof the year and a half that I spent training like that. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, what's the next step? Is the next step just continuing to get stronger? Will that compromise me from a connective tissue standpoint at some point? Am I putting myself at a greater risk of injury by continuing to train this way? Also, will it bring the density that I need, that I'm looking for? So in my head, I thought that the next step in improving my physique was adding volume to the strength that I was accumulating. Plus my endurance was really high as well. My recovery was really great. So I was like, if I can keep the strength up and continue to improve that while getting more volume in, that's going to lead to something awesome. And I think I ended up working too hard, and let me rephrase that. There's no such thing as working too hard, but I definitely think as the food was coming down and the cardio was going up, that I put myself in an overtrained state.
Yeah, I understand.
And instead of doing the intelligent thing, which is what I would have done last year, and be like, okay, I need like a D volume. I need to back off for a few days and just kind of drop some fatigue and manage my recovery a little bit better so I can continue to push the way I want to, instead of just keeping the pedal to the floor and just trying to grind through the issues, which is what I did this year. I think that led to a few different things. Me not holding on to muscle as well as I did last year. And then it got to a point where my weight drop wasn't cooperating, which led to frustration and emotional issues, for lack of a better term. I actually did a post on my Instagram about that, where out of emotional frustration, I made some mistakes in my prep that almost kind of ruined my prep, really, and ruined my look. I was able to bounce back enough to at least, place top 10 in Indy. And then obviously, we put boot to ass for the New York Pro to get in the first call out. So basically what I'm getting at is, since the New York Pro, I went back to training the way that I used to last year. Okay. That led to me holding on more muscle tissue, getting on stage at the higher weights, and, being in a place where I was never really critiqued for my size last year at all. It was like, if I'm being nitpicky, you could use a little bit more chest, and, you can keep growing your arms, but like, you're not outsized by anybody. No one ever said that at all. Okay. So, but you're not the first person to say that this year. So that got the gears turning. Like, okay, I got this critique this year that I didn't get last year. And obviously I was a lower body weight. I was conditioned, but what am I missing? What was I missing? And I had to kind of backtrack and figure it out. And that's what led me to going back to the way that I used to train. And I can see the difference in my look, in the roundness of the muscle, and how much muscle I'm retaining going into these shows. So anyway,
well, I mean, truth be told, it's, the 212 class is stacked. It's deep. It's deep. Oh yeah, very deep. As talented, and you are, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, as talented of a bodybuilder as you are,
Thank you.
You got your work cut out, especially when you get on the Olympia stage. I mean, those guys between Sean and I forgot the guy's name, Kamal, and who's the other guy from Iraq that looks like
Ahmad.
Oh my God. I mean, these guys are massive. Yeah. For that, I don't know how they fit Derik. I don't know how they fit so much muscle on that small frame. It's unbelievable, and still make weight. I mean, when you tell me you tell me Ahmad is 212, I'm like, yeah, well, the left side of his ass is 212. How is that possible? And so, and then, I honestly think the 212 is deeper than the open. I really do. I mean, so it's like, the fact that you're moving up and making these kind of gains in such a short period of time is a credit to you, a credit to your talent and your hard work, because you got your work cut out for you. Those guys are no joke, Absolutely. And I don't think anybody's going to beat Clarita anytime soon. If he comes in like he did last year, holy shit. I mean, he's like a small flex wheeler, only better.
No, I agree. The only thing that, it's just my opinion. The only thing that Sean will have to worry about is, because he still has so much room to cap out the 212, that he doesn't chase capping out the 212 and end up ruining his physique.
Yeah. If you don't mind me, no, I completely agree. Yeah,
which I don't think he'll do.
Yeah, but you're right about that. If you chase size, we've seen it happen before. We've seen this people's stomachs blow out. And then they have to go back to the drawing board, like a Rolly. A Rolly a few years back had that stomach, and then he had to go back to the drawing board and fix it, and so on and so forth. But absolutely. Who are you working with? Who are you training with?
So my nutrition coach, his name is Will Castillo. His Instagram is Prep by Will. And then like I said, I'm doing my training programming. I was following the Mountain Dog training.
Oh, sure. John Meadows.
Yeah. Me and John go back quite a few years. We're good friends. So when I was looking for the higher volume approach, there was no other person I was going to go to but John. Yeah. I knew, and the main reason was, it's not that I couldn't do it myself. I just didn't trust myself emotionally to make the right calls, because I only know 2 gears, nothing and everything. So, and I know me, I would have been like, 2 working sets. Okay. And I need more volume. I'm doubling everything. Yeah. 4 working sets, 5 working sets for everything. And I'm just going to go balls to the wall. Yeah. I know me, even though I know while I'm making this decision that it's the wrong decision. I know it's wrong, but I'm still going to do it anyway because I'm
Yeah.
hard-headed.
No,
And so,
I think we all do that. I mean, we all make that. Well, I'm not, me on a very smaller scale. I mean, I've only done some amateur shows, but I think everybody needs a set of eyes,
yes.
and a intelligent, educated set of eyes to say, no, hold on. This is what you're doing. Well, because everybody thinks that they need more cardio or less carbs and more weight. And
Yeah.
and you always need somebody to guide you along those ways. Otherwise, I don't have to tell you, that your body's at a delicate
Yeah.
state and you could ruin it like that. But